Well, I'm not looking forward to making this video, but here we go. So, I made a promise that when the Millie video hit 5k likes, I'd talk about helluvaboss again.
Don't you people have jobs?
And it'd be a topic that I'm a little hesitant to talk about. And that'd be the main relationship and one of the biggest hooks of the show, Stolas and Blitz.
Oh God, it was one time!
Now, I'm an old fossil who's grown up on the internet. I've seen the perils of shipping in actual relationships and fandoms, and if you dare criticize them in any capacity, you run the risk of unleashing the floodgates. But if you've been on this channel for any time, you should know that I'm no stranger to getting under the skin of fandoms to the point where they have to slander and lie about what I actually believe, and are too lazy to pay attention to what I actually said in the videos too. I understand that I can be quite long-winded at times, can even be considered a windbag, but that doesn't mean it's right to lie about a person based upon an assumption. So we're almost done with me raising the shields, and I want to point something out important, and that's that any issues I have with said relationship aren't because it's between two guys. There's always going to be that one person who's going to come along and accuse me of disliking the relationship because of that factor, which... no, not only am I for various kinds of relationships in the media, the only complaint about the relationship in this regard that I have is that Stolas doesn't do it for me, because they're two skinny twig boys that just don't do it. I've got a type I know I like. And to make it clear, not that it's any of your guys' business, since I don't normally like talking about my personal life on my channel or social media, I consider myself to be bi.
You did it. Good job. I can't believe it. I'm proud of you.
Because apparently cishets can't review the show. There, have some common lore. Now let's get to the actual video.
Oh shit! Sorry, I fucked your husband.
Hey boys and girls, it's that time where Common has to do some explaining! Yippee! Talking about terrible characters on my channel has become a bit of a staple, especially in recent years, and for good reason. I believe that terrible characters can be a bit of a touchy subject, and like how some of them can be very entertaining, and others can make me lose my lunch over them. After some thought, I think it really comes down to what the story is trying to do with the characters that really makes me think whether or not a terrible character is a badly written character. There's also the fact of context of the story as well. Take for example a character like, say... Senator Stephen Armstrong from Metal Gear Rising, who's clearly a terrible person with warped goals and is all for scooping kids' brains out and putting them in cybernetic bodies. I mean, that's clearly a terrible person, and yet a lot of people, myself included, like him. As a boss, as a villain, as a character, and honestly it's because of moments like this. It's a small moment, but it's those moments that can really make a character more admirable, even if they're terrible people. Stolas and Blitz, while both being terrible people, makes sense considering that they're demons, so of course they'd be dicks. And hey, they, like Armstrong, have moments of levity that shine through their terrible personalities. Whether it be through the flashbacks of Stolas singing to a younger Octavia, or Blitz being, well... not a jackass, there are moments that show that these characters are, for lack of a better term, human. Yes, they are extremely flawed. Yes, they do terrible things, but that doesn't mean that a character can't be liked in that regard. I will say, though, the show does make things a little hard for me to actually like these two as characters on their own. I get it. Stolas is a sexy, tall, owl man who wants to suck imp cock. But when we got to the second episode, there was just something off that rubbed me the wrong way that I couldn't really put in words at the time when I made my review of it. And now that I've managed to flex my muscles a little bit here and there, I figured I'd give a crack as to what I mean. Yes, the flashback to Stolas singing to Octavia is a beautiful scene. I'm not going to argue that, but what I will argue is that the next portions of the episode really undercut it to me, especially when you consider the reason for the episode is for Stolas to make up to his daughter. And if you're not familiar, this is due to the fallout that Stolas cheated on his wife Stella with Blitz. So, Stolas intends on trying to make things up with his daughter by taking her to Lululand. And hey, that's good. It reinforced that Stolas, while obviously flawed for cheating on his wife with an imp, does at the very least want to do good by his daughter. Then this happens!
People want our money and our bodies.
Oh, money maybe.
Speak for yourself, princess. Now, I'm calling the only man who can f*** me.
What?
Yeah, Stolas hires the same guy who he boned and cheated with to be their bodyguard, and when in the park, flirts with Blitz right in front of Octavia. And to be fair, the show does call out this behavior, but it still left a very bad taste in my mouth. And while Stolas stumbling over to find the right words to comfort his daughter is a heartwarming scene, it doesn't really address the cheating aspect and the fact that he has flirting with the person who caused the distress in the first place in front of his daughter. It doesn't address the fear and anxiety of losing your home and parents can really do, and how the father's actions can really affect the child. There's elements of levity that can really help with understanding a character, especially one who does terrible things, but at the same time, there shouldn't be kneecapping like this that undercuts the likability factor. I can understand that Stolas wouldn't have the right words to talk about this sort of thing with his daughter. That's perfectly fine. Of course, there are other interpretations to consider, such as Stolas knowing what he did was wrong and just couldn't find a way to justify it to his daughter. But bringing the guy who you banged and flirting with him during your time when you're trying to make things up with your daughter, I'm sorry, that either tarnishes the aspect of Stolas trying to be a good father, or it makes him out to be an idiot who can't read social cues, or changes to make sure his daughter is comfortable. And Blitz? Ugh. Well, this is probably going to get me shot in an alleyway, but I am not the biggest fan of Blitz. I honestly think he's got a few too many dislikable traits for me to personally like him. I understand there's a good number of people who do like him though. Blitz is a very complex character with a rough exterior to him. He's immature, he's a homewrecker, he's a thief, pretty much stalks employees. Like, there's a lot to dislike about Blitz to the point where I saw his breakdown at the end of the season. I really didn't feel for his emotional breakdown. Either that or I've been broken down so much that I've become an emotionless machine. Now, I need to qualify that this is just my opinion on the character, and I'm not saying I don't understand why people don't like the guy. Blitz honestly has some of the better jokes throughout the series, and there are times where he genuinely does show care and respect to his friends and employees. Then there's the scene where we see Blitz's exes, which were slowly being confirmed that Blitz sabotaged the relationships, whether for selfish reasons or for the fear of being rejected. He leaves before people can leave him. That's the rut with these kinds of characters though, and sometimes that our own personal tastes and experiences can shape our tolerance for this type of character. And I'm not gonna lie, I obviously have a bias here. I'm sure that people are gonna bring up my previous Armstrong comparison, and I do want to explain why I think a character who does cause World War III is a bit more likable than an imp who kills people and, well...
Sorry, I fucked your husband!
And that's mainly because Armstrong is a villain, and an antagonist, and not the main character like how Blitz is. It's a small difference, but one that I feel makes a world of difference to me. Plus, you do actually get to kill Armstrong in the end, so his bad actions do come back to punish him. Meanwhile for Blitz, well, he does get karmic retribution at the end of the season, but it's more or less framed in a sympathetic manner, which I've already said is not something that I felt sympathy for. Now, obviously, I'm speaking just for myself, which this has been an opinion piece the entire time, don't get that wrong. I don't know what you're expecting since a lot of this is up to interpretation, and aside from stating what actually happens in the show, that's going to be an opinion. So let's get this out of the way. If you enjoy Blitz as a character, that's perfectly fine. No shame to you, but realize not everyone shares the same taste. Still, I go through this as we discuss these two characters going forward with their relationship. I felt it should be stated how I personally feel about the characters so you guys can see how I view them in a condensed manner. I also want to let you know that I don't view my opinion as the objective truth as much as I would like that to be the arbiter of truth. That ain't gonna happen anytime soon. I'm a flawed guy. I know it, you know it, everyone who dislikes this video knows it, everyone does. And with that, let's get to the next part.
Octavia's with her mother this weekend, so we could...
I'm not fucking you tonight, okay? I'm really not in the mood, Stolas.
I feel like the scene really represents how this relationship actually is. There's a lot of people who do like these two being together, but I feel like there's a bit of a misconception. There's a difference between lust and love, and as someone who's been in a few relationships, and a long-standing one currently, the difference between love and lust is a mutual respect. If we watch the show from beginning to end, we can see that Blitz has a great deal of disgust to Stolas' verbal come-ons.
What?
Why, hello, my big-dicked Blitzy.
What? Fuck!
Dad!
Language, everyone!
And over the course of the series, we see Blitz slowly becoming more desensitized to the solicitations, but there's still a very big power imbalance. Obviously, to me, it's one of the themes of the show, or at least attempts to show how the working class is ruled by the upper crust. It's obvious that Stolas has the power in the relationship. Aside from him being a literal hellspawn that can warp into a monstrous swarm, I mean. Obviously, there's a reason for the power imbalance. Hell, if it wasn't for Stolas' book that Blitz stole, he wouldn't be able to run his business or provide for his employees or his daughter. Therefore, there's this swinging axe that is slowly coming closer and closer to the back of Blitz's neck, and at any moment, the book could be taken away. So to placate the owl, Blitz does the one thing that he can do in order to maintain his current position: submission. And this behavior also bleeds into the other bonds that Blitz has, like how he has clear envy for Moxie and Millie's relationship.
Are you fucking filming us right now?
I mean, it's really pushed to a very uncomfortable level where we see...
Blitz, you're such a good boss. Yeah, I really want you, sir. Me too. Let's three-way.
Yeah. Or how he has a tendency to overprotect Luna and thus preventing her from making any relationships outside of work. Like, we've got this line, remember?
Oh yeah? I wish I had friends. I mean, I don't have friends.
Now, while I may not like Blitz as a character, this is an interesting viewpoint on relationships. I'm no stranger to relationships that aren't all that healthy, both in fictional sense and, unfortunately, actual real-life experience, too! I've got some scars to prove that. But we'll keep most of my personal life out of this and remain with the fictional examples. What we've got here is essentially an exploitive, toxic relationship between the two characters. Both Stolas and Blitz get something out of the relationship, with Stolas being the one in power. Blitz gets the ability to run his business by using the book he stole from Stolas, and Stolas gets to use Blitz as a sexual outlet and plaything to escape his own tormented life, and mistook that as an actual form of love. I'm at least glad that the show points this out as a bad thing, since, yeah, this is a toxic relationship, and in my experience, a lot of toxic relationships in the media aren't actually painted out to be toxic. It's clear that what Stolas does to Blitz makes the imp uncomfortable. Granted, I feel like sometimes the message gets a little messed up, like in episode 6, where we see Blitz's feelings of being trapped by Stolas, and the episode caps it off with this.
Alright, but you're keeping quiet or I'm using those bear traps.
Oh, please do.
Viv, I think you're sending me mixed messages here. Now, I'm no guru of love here, baby, but this to me is sending up a few different signals. Like, it's fine if you guys are into this sort of thing, but this is a toxic relationship, and even the show acknowledges it in its imagery, and even in the final episode of season 1 addresses it.
Stolas, don't act like what we have is anything but you wanting me to fuck you, okay? You make that really clear all the time. But I can't do it tonight, okay?
You can like this sort of thing, and I can admit this is probably my interpretation of said events in the show. Nothing I say here is fact, but I feel like you can't really ignore the signs that the show is putting out there for you. And I'm not gonna sit here and judge people for liking a toxic fictional relationship. It's fiction! And if I can like fictional characters who do terrible things, then there's nothing wrong with liking toxic relationships that's fictional. It'd be hypocritical for me to demonize people for liking it. I just want people to not ignore the red flags that are showing up in your face about how this is a terrible thing.
You ready, Blitzo? Born ready.
So now that I've got my thoughts out there, I think it's appropriate that we talk about the latest episode of the time of me writing this script, The Circus. If you go on YouTube, it's needless to say, but the episode is a fair bit polarizing if you take a search down YouTube lane. You've got people who are saying it drastically hurt the series, and people who like it and think it's the best episode. You know, average day on the internet. Either way, I'm pinning a target on my back by talking about it, so here we go, boys and girls. I bring up this episode because it's an important episode concerning Blitz and Stolas, since we learned that for one day, 25 years ago, Blitz was sold to be Stolas' friend. Or, you know, slavery. We'll talk about this later, but I kind of want to give my general thoughts on the episode itself. I tend to lean that the episode brings a few problems to the table for Helluvaboss. One example is...
I tried so many years to make it comfortable for us, to have this family, but it was never enough. The only reason I have endured your constant insults and cruelty was for that girl to have a normal life.
Like, from a writing perspective, this is telling, not showing. At best, we've got a painting that shows Stolas and Stella with a younger Octavia smiling, but we never got any actual scenes of Stolas trying to actually make things comfortable for his family. Hell, aside from this episode, there was 1 or 2 times beforehand that Stolas actually had a conversation with Stella, on screen of course. I can understand and have a little sympathy for Stolas' situation, obviously, but it would have been a lot stronger to have a scene or 2 dedicated to Stolas attempting to make his family happy and maybe have Stella sniping at him during it. It'd actually make this scene...
What do you think the rest of the Goetia family will think? And
I don't care what your arrogant brother thinks. And the only thing the Goetia family wanted from our marriage is already 17, so it's over. I'm done.
A hell of a lot stronger, in my opinion. I know that a lot of people at this point will dismiss my criticisms as it's a comedy show, don't take it too seriously. And to that end, I'd like to retort that the show covers a lot of heavy themes: toxic relationships, isolation, abuse, murder, self-confidence, yada yada yada. And even if it's still a comedy at heart, the show still has its moments of seriousness. The scene I just referenced is one of them. I feel like I need to explain that shrugging off criticisms from a comedy is not exactly a good defense. Just because something is a comedy, that doesn't suddenly mean it's not above criticism. Because comedy, much like serious writing, it can have its flaws. In addition, comedic writing actually requires more attention to detail because if done wrong, a joke can be greatly mistranslated and be taken seriously, and thus provide a meaning that you didn't mean to when you made it. So just saying it's a comedy, don't take it seriously, actively hurts the serious scenes in the show, because you're telling me that those scenes should not be taken seriously despite everything else in the show telling me otherwise. Getting back to the main point of this segment, there's a bit of an issue that I have that really leaves a bit of a nasty taste in my mouth. Like, we've established throughout the series and in this video that Stolas has the power in this relationship between him and Blitz. He used Blitz as a pleasure toy, and it's called out.
Stolas, don't act like what we have is anything but you wanting me to fuck you, okay? You make that really clear all the time. But I can't do it tonight, okay? I'm sorry.
But then we get this song, and to put it out there, I like the song. It sounds good, it's performed greatly, and the visuals, while simple, are memorable. But I want to draw attention to some of the lyrics.
And you walked in my room, and like sparks in the dark, life was suddenly thrilling and new. What's between you and I? Just a comfortable lie. I'm the fool who believes when you look in my eyes. Prince, all alone upon your throne, your power is so frail. You raise your voice, you have no choice inside your gilded jail.
Now, this right here can be both a good thing and a bad thing in the case of writing. The bad thing is that this comes off as though he doesn't realize that he had the power in the relationship that he had with Blitz. I mean, it's clearly obvious Stolas has the power in the relationship. Duh. And to that end, Stolas had genuine feelings for the imp, even though Stolas practically treated Blitz as a toy to get pegged. This, to me, should have been the moment that Stolas came to a realization, that you can still have these lines, but have him realize that he's perpetuating a power imbalance that he himself is a victim of. In this episode, we learn that Stolas didn't have friends. His life was dictated to him ever since he was a kid, and he was in a loveless marriage. He's obviously the victim of a power imbalance. Instead, behavior was built up inside of him, and he reflected on that power imbalance into his relationship with Blitz. And this is where I talk about how this can be a good thing, because since this is the only first episode of the season, you can still have Stolas learn from his mistakes and come to this realization in a later episode. It's clear that Stolas is going through quite an emotional time in his life, demon or not, and while I do stand that this should have been a moment of realization for him, there's also the context of the scene of this being the same night that Ozzy's when this happens. I mean, I assume it's the same night since Stolas is still wearing the same outfit as the previous episode, but what do I know? Also, I'd like to point out that this is the same guy who thought it'd be a good idea to call the imp you boned to end your marriage to guard you while you have a father-daughter outing, and you decide to hit on said imp. So my expectations of self-realization for the character aren't that high, especially on a night where he was hit with a lot of emotional damage. But I'm trying to be charitable here. It's still the first episode of the season, and it's entirely possible that Stolas could come to this realization that his actions towards Blitz are a reflection of his own powerlessness to his family. Like, that's really one of the better ways you can really make this character shine to me. And it'd actually be a really mature moment for the owl to come to this realization. Whether or not he gets with Blitz after that self-actualization is another matter. But sure, I could say it would have been nice to have seen something like this before the episode so it wasn't crammed down our throats, but hey, it's fine, I guess. Take what you can get. My other biggest gripes with this episode, and one that can't really be rectified, is selling Blitz into slavery to be Stolas' friend for a day. Now, getting aside that slavery is obviously wrong, that's not really my biggest issue here because, you know, demons, jackasses. What I find to be really hilarious is that the denizen of hell will say that humans are dumb when you got big brain moments like this.
No, the other one.
Blitzo?
Correct. How much?
Well, he's my son, so... how much you got in your pocket?
A wadded up 5 and a slim fit condom.
Ah, that's plenty.
12 seconds later.
Now listen carefully. You were being brought out to be his playmate, but I want you to steal as much from those rich fuckers as you possibly can.
You could have asked renting him out and not have to worry about an owl demon catching your son and not getting anything out of that. Smooth. The only other aspect that I find is Blitz becoming Stolas' childhood friend. For a day. It doesn't really add all that much to the relationship, although I do question how Stolas could recognize Blitz with the new scars and about 25 years difference, and drinking during the party that he meets Blitz. If anything, considering this is a toxic relationship in the future, it kind of makes this a little off-putting to me, especially since they were just friends for a single day and nothing came from it for 25 years till Blitz decided to steal the book and peg Stolas so he can actually, you know, get the book. I don't know, there's just something really off right there to me. I think I want to cap this video off by saying that if you like the ship, it's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with liking fiction like this. I mean, people like video games that are filled with violence, horror games that are filled with terrible imagery and situations, and the same can be said about relationships like these. If you like Owlboy and Imp here getting their freak on, I'm not gonna judge. I just don't like it. I'm merely looking at this relationship through the lens of a critical eye, since when it comes to relationships like these in writings, it's a tightrope that you have to walk on to make sure it doesn't come out as terrible. There was a lot more that I want to talk about in this video, but I want to be concise for once in my life, and I want to make it clear that I make these videos to express my opinions on the shows and what I hope to see. Of course, it's always possible that these elements in writing can work in a different way, and I only propose a single solution and analysis in this video. I mean, I could attempt to make a big video where I talk about a lot of different solutions, but not only do I not want to do that, it seemed to be boring to me. That being said, I appreciate you guys giving me the time to watch this video, and let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. I appreciate any and all support you can give my channel, and just giving a comment helps as well. I'm MangaKamen, and thanks for watching.
Get the fuck out!